Hello and welcome to this tutorial that's going to teach you how to create a simple platformer level in GameMaker with gravity. So the first thing we need to think about is gravity itself. Now I'm sure you all remember those fascinating physics lessons in school where you learned that what goes up must come down. So gravity is simply the force that will allow the player, when they get to the edge of a platform, to jump and then for gravity to pull them down towards the ground or the floor in the level. So the most important thing about gravity is that unless we're in outer space, which I'm sure your game levels won't be, is that gravity will pull us downwards. So what we have to do in GameMaker is figure out a way of setting that up so that gravity works, so that the player is automatically pulled downwards when there's nothing beneath them. So for something to fall, the space beneath the player must be empty. So we can see our character here on the edge of the ledge. If they were to jump up now, they wouldn't be able to fall any further down because they've got the green ledge beneath them. If, however, there's nothing beneath the player's object, so the space beneath the object is empty, then gravity will take over and the object will fall. And for the gravity to work in GameMaker, we need to get GameMaker to actually check that the space beneath the object is empty. So we can see here we've got our player on the edge of this ledge. You can see the arrow pointing beneath them. So at the moment, if the player was to jump up, then they would not fall down any further than where that green ledge is, because there's something beneath them. If, however, there was nothing beneath the player's object, so the space beneath them was empty, then gravity would take over and the object would fall down until it encountered a solid surface beneath it. So for gravity to work in GameMaker, we need to get GameMaker to check that the space beneath the object is empty every single second of the game. So we do this by asking GameMaker a very simple question in a step event, which is an event that runs every single second that the game is running, using GML or GameMaker's scripting language. And the question we ask is if place_free x, y plus 1. So essentially, we're asking it to check if 1 pixel beneath the object is free, there's nothing there, then set gravity to 0.7 and set gravity direction to 270. So gravity is the force at which something will fall, and gravity_direction is the direction it will fall in. Now in GameMaker, the direction 270 is actually straight down. So let's have a go at actually trying to make a platform level. Now the GML, the GameMaker language script that you're going to need, is in the description of this video, but it's also going to be on the Owler site. So let's load up GameMaker. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open a new project. It's going to be a new game. I'm going to use a blank game template, and then I'm going to click Let's Go. This loads up a empty game. However, if we have a look over here, we've got one room created by default with it. So, a quick bit about the UI for GameMaker. Okay, we've got our workspace here, where when we are creating something or editing something, it's going to pop up here. On the right hand side, we've got the asset browser that lists all the different assets that we're using in the game. So that's sounds, sprites, objects, levels, otherwise known as rooms. And then on the left hand side, we have the inspector. So if we select something, say for example, we make an object and we select it, the inspector will bring up all the details about it and we'll be able to edit some of the settings over here on the left hand side. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make a couple of sprites. So essentially, because we're making a 2D game, the characters, the backgrounds, essentially all the visuals are going to be 2D images or sprites, as they're also known. To make a new sprite, we're going to go to the asset browser on the right hand side. We're going to right click and we're going to go create and we're going to select sprite from the list. So here we go, it's made a sprite. Now the first sprite I'm going to make is actually going to be the wall or the ground. So I'm going to go to where it says name and I'm going to give it a name straight away that makes sense. So I'm going to call it wall_SPR. So I've got a wall_SPR, and the SPR there is to help me know when I've got a wall sprite and a wall object, which is the image and which is essentially the functional object. Now at the moment we can see on the right hand side there's no image there, so we're going to go edit image. Here, this has opened up the image editor. We've got colours, we've got brush sizes over here on the right. We've got different colours we can select for it. And if we scroll down here, we've got different image editing tools like pencil, an eraser. We've got, you can draw circles and rectangles. What I'm going to use is the fill tool, so the paint bucket. And I'm just going to make a black floor, use the paint bucket tool, give it a click. So it fills the whole image with black. That's fine for this. I'm going to click the X here to get rid of that. And there we go, that's fine. So that's my wall sprite done. So I'm going to click the little drop down there to hide that. The other sprite I need to make is for the playable character. So the player is going to control a character in the game. That character's referred to as an avatar. So I'm going to make a sprite for the avatar. So right click on sprites again, create sprite. Again, I'm going to name it something that makes sense. So I'm going to name this avatar underscore SPR for avatar sprite. Again, I'm going to edit the image and I'm just going to make it really simple. Avatar here, so I'm going to make a really simple drawing. This isn't great, but I'm just going to make a simple yellow circle for my avatar. There we go, that's the avatar character. Click X again to get rid of it, and I'm just going to minimize that in a second. One thing I do want to do is I'm going to go to my in fact we'll minimize that for now. And you can see actually, although it's minimized there, we can see over here on the left hand side the inspector's brought up information about the sprite here. Now, one important thing I'm going to do for the avatar sprite, I'm going to set the origin point, instead of being top left here, we're going to set that to the middle center. And essentially that means the middle of the avatar's sprite is the middle of the playable object. That's only important because later on we'll see if we want to make the avatar turn, it will stop the image jumping about. So now I've created two simple sprites. I've got my avatar sprite and my wall sprite. The next thing I need to do is make an object. So at the moment, the sprites are simply images. They don't actually do anything. There's no functionality to them. What I need to do is make an object that's interactive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the avatar. So I'm going to create an object. And it's come up here, object 1. I'm going to name this, because this is going to be the avatar, I'm going to name it avatar, and again, underscore obj for avatar object. Beneath it says sprite, and there's a little white window there. It says no sprite at the moment. Essentially, we need to select the image that we want our avatar to have. So I'm going to go no sprite, navigate to my sprites folder here, and select avatar sprite. There we go, wonderful. So one more important thing, I'm going to tick to make that solid. So we've got now our avatar. I'm going to do the same now. I'm going to make a wall object. So I'm going to go back to objects, right click, create object. I'm going to name this wall underscore obj. I'm going to select again the sprite, the image that I want the wall to have, which is my wall sprite from the drop down. And I'm going to make that solid as well. So very quickly, I've created two images, one for the wall and one for the avatar, and then I've created two objects, as in functional game objects that we can control or interact with, one for the avatar and one for the wall. Now, I've not added any interactivity to these objects yet. We're going to do that in a second. What I want to do next is go to the room setting and double click on room 1. So a room is essentially a level, okay, or a stage. Now, when I've double clicked it, the inspector comes up with information about the room, and in the middle here in the workspace, it shows us what our room looks like. Now, I'm just going to hold down Command on my keyboard and left click to zoom out, so we can see that a little bit more. Now, at the minute, our room's just a black, empty stage. What I want to do, the first thing I want to do is select up here in the inspector on the left-hand side, select the background of the room, scroll down and click this little arrow to get rid of that. Go to properties, so we're going to, in the room, the background under layers, and then down to properties, and where it says color, click the color swatch, and I want you to select a color for your room. anything but black essentially. So I'm going to make that blue and click OK. Next thing we need to do is we need to add the objects we've made into our level. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drag my avatar into the room. So click and hold avatar and drag it in. Place it anywhere for now, don't worry too much. Next thing we want to do is add our wall in. So I'm going to drag the wall object over, and make sure you drag the object for wall and avatar rather than the sprite. So once I've got my wall in, I need to essentially use this wall object to create the terrain of the level. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to paint on the wall. But before I do that, I need to go up to the top where it says laptop mode here and turn this off. Perfect. Now I need to go to my instances. So I think I've got instances 1. I've got the wall object here. I'm going to click it from the instances layer over here. And then I'm going to hold down the Option key on my Mac. And then click down the left button. With Option left button held, I can draw out the terrain of my level. There we go. So now I wouldn't actually need this many wall objects. I could just use, I can actually paint on a background, but we'll cover that later. So now I've got my avatar in the room and I've got the terrain. Now I'm going to show you how to preview the game. So if you come up to the top here where it says this little play icon, hover over it, it says run or press F5 on your keyboard. It creates a little playable demo of your game level, the room that you've got open. So at the moment, here's my room. But the thing is, when I press any keys, nothing happens. Like, although the objects are in there, we haven't actually told GameMaker what those objects are, what they do, what interactivity to add to them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our avatar and we're going to add some interactivity. So if we double click avatar, if you've closed it down with a little arrow to minimize it, open it up again. And all interactivity in GameMaker is done via events. So an event is where we add interactivity. And essentially there's 2 parts to an event. There's a trigger, as in the thing that causes the event to happen. So we go add event and let's add our trigger. So we want to create a step event, and a step event basically says every step of the game, so kind of every 1/15 of a second, for example, do whatever we tell it to do next. Now there's 2 types of things that we can do in GameMaker. We can use visual coding to drag and drop interactivity, or we can use GML code. So for this one here, we're going to use GML code. So click OK. So step event, and then we've got a bit of coding over here. Now I've got the code here. So if I go up to my GameMaker code, so step event for avatar object, the first thing I'm going to do is copy in this top line of code here. So you'll be able to find this on the YouTube description, but if you're doing this as part of my class, you'll be able to find it on Owler as well. And let's have a look at what code we've just added on here. So we're saying if place 3 x comma y plus 1. So if there's nothing 1 pixel beneath us, then set the gravity to 0.7. So as in like the force of the gravity to 0.7, and set gravity direction at 270. So remember from that earlier explanation, 270 is straight down. Else, as in otherwise, if the place 1 pixel beneath us isn't free, if there's something 1 pixel beneath us like the floor, then set gravity to 0 so we won't fall, and gravity direction is still minus 270. So now if I click run, when the game loads, you'll see we fall. But did you notice we fell and we've fallen straight through the floor? That's because we need to add in another important piece of interactivity. Essentially, we need to tell the player's object, so the avatar object, what to do if it collides with the floor. So now in avatar underscore object, we're going to go add event, collision, objects, and wall. So we're saying, okay, if we collide with the object wall underscore obj. Select GML code again. Open up your code block. So we've got the wall obj here, the collision. And then I'm going to bring my code back up. And then copy this code that's collision with wall floor object. And the code is move underscore contact underscore solid, and then open brackets direction comma 12 close brackets, and then vspeed equals 0. So what we're saying there is if the avatar object collides with the wall, then move the avatar object until it is in contact with the solid object in the direction it's falling, and then once it's in contact with the solid object, set the vertical speed, as in, is it moving up or down, to 0, as in, it's no longer moving up or down. So when we collide with the wall or object, we stop moving up or down. Right, let's hit the run button again. And now, when the avatar object falls, you see it moves and lands on the floor. But when I press the keyboard buttons, left, right, or WASD, nothing's happening. That's because I've not actually told GameMaker yet how to control my object. So, there's a couple of ways we could do this. The first way we could do this is we could say, in the avatar object, we could add an event for the keyboard. And we could say, okay, when the key is pressed, so for example, when we press left, and we could use visual coding for this. We could say, when the keyboard left key is pressed, and we can move over here, and we're looking for the direction button. Here it is under movement. Set direction fixed. Ding. There we go. So essentially what we're doing here is we're saying, when the left keyboard button is pressed, set direction that we're moving to the left. And then we need to add on a speed button. And we could set the speed to, for example, for some reason I didn't like that. We'll set the speed to 3. So, and then we could do exactly the same. We could go add event, key down right, use some more visual coding again. And let's drag over our, oh no, wrong one. Set direction fixed again. So this time we take the right arrow because we're pressing the right key. And again, let's drag the speed, set the speed to 3. So let's preview this. So let's run the game, create a little demo, and let's see. So the avatar falls, hits the floor, doesn't fall through anymore. When I press the left key, starts moving to the left. When I press the right key, starts moving to the right. However, when I let go of the keyboard, it's still moving. That's because the game will only do what we tell it to do. And we've told it that if we move left to set the speed to 3, and if we move right to set the speed to 3, but we haven't told it what to do if we let go of any of the keys. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go key down again. So go add event, key down, and no key. So we're going to say, right, if no key is pressed, then set speed to 0. So GML coding block again. And let's go over here and let's find our speed. Here we go, set speed to 0. So when no key is pressed, then set the speed to 0. So that should mean when I let go of the key now, the speed becomes 0. And it's made a problem with the falling. We can see here that's messed with our gravity. So there's ways around this, essentially. There are ways around this. Instead let's set our H speed to 0. So let's go H speed. Okay, we'll leave that for now. So this isn't a very elegant way to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my keyboard events here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete them, because actually there's a much more elegant way to add in movement for a platformer using some simple coding. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our step event here. So we've already told it essentially how to test for how to add gravity to the game. Is going to test every single kind of microsecond in the game and check if there's anything beneath us. And if there's nothing beneath us, we're going to fall. And if there's something beneath us, we're going to stop falling. What we can also do in this coding block is we can tell it how we want to control the player. So again, I've got some code. So go on to Aula or the YouTube comments, YouTube description, and copy the code that starts if place 3 x minus 5y and paste that in. And I'll talk you through this now. So essentially this is some controls for the game, and essentially what it's saying is if there's nothing to the left of us, so x minus 5 means 5 pixels to the left of the character, and we're pressing the left key on our keyboard, VK left, so check if the keyboard is being pressed on the left key, then move us 5 pixels to the left. And then it's also saying if the place to the right of us is free and we're pressing the right key on the keyboard, then move us 5 pixels to the right. So, and then same again for the up key as well. If there's nothing above us, then here we go. If there's nothing above us and we're pressing the up key, then set the vertical speed to minus 15. So now, if I hit the run, let's run our game demo, I should have a playable character that I can control. So now when I press left and let go, it stops moving. We can see the gravity is working much better now. And if I press the up key, I've got to time my jump just perfect here. So now I can jump, I can move left and right, I can hit the floor, and wonderful, there we go. So now we've got some very simple platformer mechanics here. We can move from that level, we can jump. Excellent. So let's make it a bit more complicated. So I'm going to go back into my room and I'm going to delete a couple of these walls here. So I'm going to highlight the wall objects and I'm going to hit backspace on my keyboard to delete them. Now what I want to do is make it so that there's a jump here that I have to make, and if I fall down there, I want it to restart the level. So we've removed the floor. So if I run the demo now, let's see what happens if I fall through the floor. So I'm going to jump, I don't make it, I fall, but I've disappeared, but nothing's happening. What I need to do is essentially tell GameMaker what it needs to do if I miss the jump and fall. So what I want it to do is essentially I want to die and have to restart the level. That's the simplest way. So I'm going to go into my avatar object and I'm going to go add event. And I'm going to go other. And I'm going to go outside room. So essentially what I'm saying is if I fall outside the room, and this time I am going to use visual coding. I'm going to click OK. So if the avatar object is outside the room, we need to tell it what to do. And what we want to do is we want to restart the room. So I'm going to type restart into the search bar here. And under rooms, you'll see there's an option that says restart room. Drag that over. So let's see what happens now. I'm going to hit run. Let's preview the demo. So I've got my character here. I jump, I fall. Aha, and we've restarted the room, you see. Fantastic. So we've added a bit more challenge into our game now. And keep on saving your game as you go, guys. So, have a go at that and let's see how you get on, and I'll come round and provide some assistance. If you're doing it at home, then good luck creating your first game demo, and I look forward to seeing what you've made. Please leave a comment below.